When I tell you that everything begins with desire, I do not mean the casual sort of wanting. The fleeting thought, the half-formed wish, the restless envy of what others possess. That kind of desire is no more than smoke. It drifts in the air for a moment and disappears. The kind of desire I speak of is fire. It burns at the center of your being. It compels you, shapes you, and ultimately transforms you. Without this fire, the plan cannot begin. With it, nothing can truly stop you. Most people never achieve greatness because they never take the time to decide what they actually want. They live in a fog of vague wishes. I want more money. I want to be happier. I want a better life. But what does more money mean? How much? By when? For what purpose? What does happiness look like? How do you measure it? Without definition, the mind cannot build a path. It is like asking a captain to sail without a destination. The ship may move, but it will drift aimlessly, carried by the winds and currents of chance. I learned very early that when you start with nothing, you cannot afford to drift. You cannot afford to waste energy chasing every random opportunity or following every passing impulse. You must choose. You must say to yourself, with absolute clarity, this is what I want. This is the mountain I will climb. This is the treasure I will uncover. And nothing, absolutely nothing, will pull me from it. When you make such a decision, you give the mind a command. And once the mind has a definite command, it begins to work with you rather than against you. Now, some people hesitate at this point. They fear making a decision because they fear being wrong. They imagine that if they choose a goal and it turns out to be difficult, or if life shifts and they no longer want it, then all their effort will have been wasted. But indecision is the greatest waste of all. It drains your energy day by day. It keeps you circling around the same problems. It locks you in hesitation while opportunities pass by. A poor plan acted upon with desire is infinitely more valuable than the perfect plan that never leaves your imagination. Think of the child who learns to walk. He does not stand still waiting for the perfect step. He takes a step, falls, rises again, and keeps stepping until he learns balance. Desire is the same. When you commit to it clearly, you may stumble, you may have to adjust your direction, but the act of committing gives you movement. And movement is life. When I speak of desire, I am not speaking only of emotion. Desire is not merely the feeling of wanting. It is a union of mind and heart. It is the decision to make something so definite, so vivid, that your subconscious accepts it as reality long before it exists in the physical world. The man who desires clearly does not say, I wish for wealth. He says, I will earn $100,000 by this date through this method, and I will give this value in exchange. That clarity transforms a dream into a directive. And here is the remarkable truth. When the mind holds a clear directive with intensity, it begins to reorganize your thoughts, your habits, and your awareness. You begin to see opportunities you never noticed. You begin to attract circumstances that align with your goal. People call this luck. They call it coincidence. But it is nothing more than the natural power of a mind that has been given a definite order. Let me give you an example. Imagine two individuals standing before a crowded library. The first has no clear desire. He wanders among the shelves, picking up one book after another, reading a few lines, then putting them down. He may spend hours there, yet he leaves with nothing. The second enters with a burning desire to become an architect. He knows precisely what he seeks. He walks directly to the section on design, on engineering, on construction. He finds the books he needs, studies them, applies the knowledge, and eventually builds a career. Both entered the same library. Both had access to the same information. But one left with wisdom, the other with nothing but wasted time. The difference was clarity of desire. Now, you may ask yourself, how do I discover this desire? How do I know what it is that I truly want? The answer is found in honest reflection. Strip away what others expect of you. Silence the voices that tell you what is practical, what is safe, what is traditional. Ask yourself instead, what excites me to the point where failure would still be better than never trying? What vision can I not escape even in quiet moments? What pursuit would make my heart burn, my body tire, and yet leave me fulfilled? The answer to these questions is the seed of your desire. Once discovered, write it down. Give it shape in words. Speak it aloud until it feels as natural as your own name. Place it in your environment where your eyes fall upon it daily. Make it the central command of your mind, for desire unspoken remains abstract. but desire declared begins to gather force. Understand this as well. Desire is not selfish. To truly burn within you, it must connect to something greater than yourself. A man who only desires wealth for his own comfort will never hold the same fire as the man who desireth to provide for his family, to uplift his community, to bring into the world something that did not exist before. The most powerful desires are not rooted in greed but in contribution. They extend beyond your own life and become part of the lives of others, and that extension gives them a strength that selfish wishes cannot match. Do not be surprised if, once you define your desire clearly, resistance arises. Friends may mock you, family may doubt you, the world may place obstacles before you. This is natural. The fire of desire must be tested, for only through resistance does it gain its strength. If you abandon it at the first difficulty, then it was never true desire, it was only curiosity. But if you press forward, if you hold that clarity even when the night seems darkest, you will discover that the very act of persistence strengthens your vision until it becomes unshakable. So when I say that the plan begins with desire, I am not offering you a casual idea. I am giving you the foundation upon which everything else rests. Desire is the origin, it is the engine. It is the first cause of achievement. Without it, there is nothing. With it, everything else becomes possible. And so I leave you with this thought if you are at zero now. If you have no money, no connections, no apparent advantage, do not despair. Begin by asking yourself what you truly, absolutely, and unconditionally desire. Decide it, define it, declare it. Let it burn in your mind until it becomes the star by which you navigate. For when the fire of desire is lit, even the coldest night cannot hold you back, and the distance from zero to greatness becomes nothing more than a journey of steps already waiting to be taken. When desire is clear, the next step is faith. Without faith, desire is nothing more than a dream, something you admire from a distance but never touch. Faith is the bridge between the invisible and the visible, between the idea in your mind and the reality in your hands. And here is the truth. Every great achievement that has ever been brought into this world was once invisible. It was once a vision in the mind of someone who refused to doubt it, even when the evidence around them gave no reason to believe. Faith does not mean blind acceptance. It is not sitting idly by, hoping that the universe will drop your desires into your lap. Faith is not laziness disguised as spirituality. Faith is the unwavering conviction that what you have imagined can be made real through your thought, your effort, and your persistence. It is the confidence to walk forward into the unknown step after step without demanding that the entire path be revealed before you take the first stride. Think about this. Every great invention was once invisible. The airplane existed first in the imagination of two bicycle mechanics who had never before left the ground. Electricity as a harness force existed only in the mind of a man who could see currents of light before anyone else even believed they could exist. Bridges, skyscrapers, medicines, works of art, all were invisible before they became real. The person who lacks faith will laugh at what cannot yet be seen. The person with faith holds on until what is unseen becomes undeniable. And here is where so many people fail. They begin with desire, yes, but the moment they encounter resistance, their belief wavers. They look around, see no evidence of success, and assume their vision was foolish. They ask for proof before they have put in the work, and because proof cannot come before action, they abandon their dreams. The truth is that faith must precede evidence. Evidence follows faith, never the other way around. Consider the farmer who plants a seed. He does not demand that the seed sprout before he waters it. He does not stare at the soil in frustration, saying, "I will only care for this seed once I see green leaves." He believes he has faith that the invisible process beneath the earth is real. And so he waters, he nurtures, he protects until in time the invisible becomes visible. If you cannot treat your dreams with the same patience, then you do not yet have faith. Now, I know what you may be thinking. How do I develop faith when my circumstances give me every reason to doubt? The answer is simple, though not always easy. You develop faith through repetition of thought. The mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant, whatever you water, grows. If you allow doubt, fear, and criticism to take root, they will strangle the seed of your desire. If you feed your mind with affirmations of success, with images of the life you seek, with words that declare the inevitability of your victory, faith begins to grow stronger than doubt. You must learn to speak to yourself with authority. Do not wait for encouragement from others. Do not depend on the approval of those who cannot see your vision. You must declare it to yourself until it becomes part of you. Tell yourself daily, what I desire already exists in the unseen. I am moving toward it. I am capable of bringing it into reality. At first, these words may feel like lies, but repeated often enough, they become the dominant command of your mind. And once your mind accepts a command, it begins to align every thought, every action, and every perception toward fulfilling it. You see, faith is not just a spiritual force, it is a psychological necessity. Without it, you will quit long before results appear. With it, you will endure through the seasons of apparent failure until success finally blooms. The person without faith looks at difficulties and says, "This is the end." The person with faith looks at the same difficulties and says, "This is the test before the reward." Which one do you think prevails? I must also tell you this faith is contagious. Surround yourself with people who believe in themselves, in their dreams, in possibilities, and your own faith will multiply. Surround yourself with cynics, doubters, and the perpetually negative, and your faith will wither. You cannot build a soaring future in the company of those who live permanently in the basement of disbelief. Guard your environment as carefully as you guard your mind. Do not confuse faith with arrogance. Faith is humble. It does not boast of achievements not yet earned. It does not demand applause before results appear. True faith works quietly, steadily, confidently, until one day it speaks for itself through undeniable results. Arrogance talks loudly but crumbles under pressure. Faith speaks softly but endures storms, and perhaps most importantly, faith is action. If you claim to believe but refuse to act, then your belief is hollow. Every step you take toward your desire, no matter how small, is an expression of faith. When you write down your goal, you are acting in faith. When you wake up early to study, when you practice while no one watches, when you keep going after rejection, you are declaring to the world, "I believe." Action is the voice of faith. Without it, belief is nothing but empty noise. Remember this when you start from zero. Faith is your greatest asset. You may not have money, you may not have connections, you may not have experience, but if you have faith, real, unshakable faith, you have already secured the one ingredient that every empire, every fortune, every great legacy began with. And if you lack faith, no amount of money or opportunity will save you, because the first storm will take it all away. So I say to you, cultivate this power deliberately. Feed it daily. Guard it fiercely. Exercise it through action. And when you feel doubt creeping in, do not be alarmed. That is natural. Simply return to your vision, repeat your affirmations, surround yourself with belief, and take another step forward. Each time you do, your faith grows stronger, and your desire moves closer to becoming real. And let me leave you with this truth: everything you long for already exists, though it may not yet be visible to your eyes. Faith is the lens that allows you to see it before it arrives. Hold that lens steady, refuse to let it slip, and one day the world will see what you saw long before anyone else dared to believe. If desire is the spark and faith is the fuel, then the discipline of thought is the engine that keeps the fire under control and turns it into forward motion. Without discipline, desire burns wildly but consumes itself. Without discipline, faith can be scattered by the winds of distraction and doubt. To master your life, you must first master your mind. For every action you take, every habit you form, and every destiny you shape begins as a single thought. The challenge is this: the human mind is both the most powerful tool you will ever possess and the most dangerous enemy you will ever face. Left uncontrolled, it produces worry, fear, self-doubt, and endless distraction. It replays past mistakes until you feel trapped by them, or it projects into the future until you are paralyzed by possibilities that may never occur. A disciplined mind, however, becomes a laser. It cuts through confusion. It focuses entirely on what must be done now. It refuses to waste energy on what cannot be changed, and it directs every ounce of attention toward building what can be. Ask yourself how many opportunities in your life have slipped away, not because you lacked talent or ability, but because you allowed your own thoughts to sabotage you. How many times have you stood at the threshold of action, only to hear the inner voice of fear whisper, "What if I fail? What will others say? Who am I to attempt this?" That voice is not reality. It is simply the undisciplined mind throwing shadows on the wall. Discipline of thought means refusing to be ruled by that voice. It means training your inner dialogue until it serves your vision instead of betraying it. Discipline is not something you achieve once and then possess forever. It is a daily practice. Just as muscles weaken when they are not exercised, thoughts become scattered when they are not guided. And the truth is, the world is designed to test this discipline. Every day you are bombarded with distractions, notifications, noise, criticism, temptations to compare yourself with others, temptations to chase 1,000 goals instead of staying fixed on the one that matters. If you do not discipline your thoughts, the world will gladly discipline them for you, and it will not discipline them in your favor. I often compare the mind to a garden. If you do not deliberately plant flowers, weeds will grow automatically. Negativity, fear, and doubt do not require invitation. They are the default growth of the untended mind. But if you choose your thoughts carefully, plant them intentionally, and guard them daily, you will cultivate a harvest of strength, confidence, and clarity. The discipline is in pulling out the weeds before they spread and watering only the seeds that align with your vision. But how, you may ask, does one practically discipline the mind? It begins with awareness. You must first become conscious of the thoughts you allow to linger. You cannot control every passing idea. Thousands enter your mind each day, but you can decide which ones to entertain. A thought enters, and you ask, does this serve my desire? Does this reinforce my faith? If the answer is no, you release it immediately. You do not wrestle with it. You do not analyze it endlessly. You simply replace it with a thought that does serve you. This is mental discipline in its simplest form, the refusal to give energy to what weakens you. Another practice of discipline is concentration. Choose one definite aim and commit your thinking to it. Most people fail not because they lack effort, but because their effort is scattered in too many directions. They chase one idea today, another tomorrow, and at the end of the year, they have nothing but exhaustion to show for it. But the individual who concentrates thought on a single goal day after day inevitably bends reality toward that goal. The world cannot resist the pressure of concentrated thought backed by action. You must also learn the discipline of guarding your imagination. The imagination is the workshop of the mind. It is where you see your desire vividly, where you rehearse success long before the world sees it. But imagination is fragile. Expose it too often to the ridicule of others, and it may weaken. That is why those who discipline their thoughts are careful about what they share and with whom. Not everyone deserves access to your vision. Some will nourish it, but others will poison it. A disciplined thinker knows when to speak and when to remain silent. And let us not ignore perhaps the greatest enemy of disciplined thought, fear. Fear is the master illusion. It creates images in your mind that feel real, but most of which never materialize. Studies have shown that the majority of what people fear never happens. Yet how many lives are wasted because those fears were treated as reality? Discipline means recognizing fear for what it is, a thought without substance, a phantom of the mind. When fear enters, you do not surrender to it. You confront it, you name it, and then you act in spite of it. Action in the face of fear is the highest form of disciplined thought. Understand also that discipline does not eliminate emotion, it directs it. You are not asked to suppress your feelings, but to align them. Anger, when undisciplined, becomes destructive. Anger, when disciplined, becomes fuel for change. Excitement, when undisciplined, leads to recklessness. Excitement, when disciplined, leads to bold, intelligent action. Even love, the highest of emotions, can destroy if uncontrolled. But when disciplined, it becomes the most creative power known to man. Discipline of thought is not about coldness. It is about mastery. Now let me tell you something remarkable. Once you begin to discipline your mind, life itself begins to feel different. Obstacles that once seemed overwhelming now appear as challenges to be solved. Criticism that once discouraged you now sharpens your focus. Time that once slipped through your fingers now becomes a tool you command. Why? Because discipline gives you control. And with control, you stop reacting to life and begin directing it. Do not expect perfection. Even the most disciplined minds slip. What matters is not whether you fall into negative thought, but how quickly you rise again. At first, you may catch yourself after hours of worry. With practice, you catch yourself after minutes. Eventually, you catch yourself within seconds. That is the progression of mastery. And so, I say to you, discipline your thoughts as if your life depends on it, because it does. Your destiny is not written in the stars. It is written in the patterns of thought you repeat daily. Guard them, shape them, and direct them, for they will shape everything you become. Let me leave you with this: the undisciplined mind is a prison, but the disciplined mind is freedom. One keeps you chained to fear, distraction, and doubt. The other releases you into power, clarity, and creation. The choice is yours, every single day, in every single thought. Choose wisely, for your thoughts are not just passing sparks. They are the architects of your future. Desire gives you the spark. Faith gives you the courage to begin. Discipline of thought keeps you steady. But there is one more force without which the plan collapses. That force is persistence. Persistence is the quiet, relentless refusal to stop, even when the path is dark, even when the weight is heavy, even when the results you crave seem nowhere in sight. Without persistence, all other virtues die before they bear fruit. It is easy to desire, but desire fades when met with obstacles. It is easy to believe, but faith flickers when evidence is scarce. It is easy to discipline the mind for a day or a week. But what happens when failure visits your door again and again? This is where persistence proves its value. It is the iron beneath the velvet, the power that transforms temporary defeat into the soil of eventual victory. The truth is that failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is part of the process. It is the tuition you pay to learn the laws of achievement. Every stumbling block, every rejection, every closed door is not there to stop you. It is there to test you. It asks, do you really want this? Is your desire strong enough? Is your faith unshakable? Is your discipline real, or is it only a performance when times are easy? Persistence is your answer. Most people quit too soon. They mistake temporary defeat for permanent failure. They believe that one rejection, one setback, one collapse of their plans means destiny has spoken against them. But destiny does not speak in single events. It speaks through patterns, through lessons, through seasons of trial. And the one who persists long enough, who learns from every fall and adapts with every challenge, eventually discovers that the so-called failure was only preparation for something greater. Think of the miner who digs for gold. He may dig for weeks, months, even years without striking the vein. Many give up just a few feet from treasure, exhausted by effort and blinded by disappointment. But the one who persists, who keeps digging even when the pick feels heavy and the tunnel seems endless, is the one who finally hears the sound of the pick against gold. The reward was never absent. It was simply waiting for persistence to claim it. Let me tell you something about persistence. It is not glamorous. The world celebrates the moment of victory, the applause when success is revealed. But persistence is forged in silence. It is the long nights when no one is watching. It is the repeated attempts that go unnoticed. It is the private battle with self-doubt that no one ever applauds. Persistence does not seek recognition. It seeks results. And because of that, it is the rarest of qualities. How do you develop persistence? You begin by making failure your teacher, not your enemy. When defeat strikes, do not waste energy in self-pity or blame. Ask instead, what is this teaching me? How can I improve? What must I strengthen, refine, or release? Every failure contains within it a seed of instruction. The undisciplined mind sees failure as punishment. The persistent mind sees failure as information. And once you train yourself to interpret it this way, you no longer fear it. You welcome it as part of the path. You must also learn to expect resistance. Many begin their journey with the illusion that if they are on the right path, everything will flow smoothly. That is not how the universe works. Resistance is the sign that you are moving into new territory. The athlete feels pain in the muscles not because he is failing, but because he is growing. The entrepreneur faces setbacks not because success is impossible, but because persistence is shaping his character into the kind that can handle wealth. Expect resistance, and persistence becomes easier because you are no longer surprised when it comes. Another truth about persistence: it does not require giant leaps. It is the small, consistent actions taken day after day, long after the initial excitement has faded. Anyone can work hard when passion is fresh and the path feels easy. Persistence is doing the work when passion has cooled, when progress is invisible, when all you have is the memory of your desire and the whisper of your faith. That is when persistence matters most. Understand this: persistence and success are inseparable. No great figure in history ever achieved anything of lasting value without enduring periods of trial, discouragement, and apparent defeat. The difference between those who succeeded and those who did not was rarely talent, rarely opportunity. It was persistence. The refusal to quit became the dividing line between obscurity and greatness. And here is the beauty of persistence: it does not require brilliance. It does not require wealth, connections, or extraordinary gifts. It is available to every person equally. The poor man can persist as much as the rich. The uneducated can persist as much as the scholar. The unknown can persist as much as the famous. Persistence levels the field because it asks only one thing: will you keep going? Of course, persistence is not stubbornness. It does not mean repeating the same failed approach endlessly. True persistence adapts. It learns. It experiments. When one method fails, persistence searches for another. When one door closes, persistence looks for a window or builds a new door entirely. Stubbornness resists change. Persistence embraces it. That is why persistence always finds a way. Think of the river. It is not the force of a single wave that carves the canyon, but the steady, unrelenting flow of water against stone, year after year, century after century. The stone resists, but persistence wears it down. You must become like that river, unyielding, patient, relentless. You may not see results in a day or a month, but over time, nothing can resist the power of persistence. So when you face your next setback, and you will, remember that it is not the end. It is a question being asked of you. Will you stop here, or will you persist? Answer it with your actions, not your excuses. Answer it by rising one more time than you fall. Answer it by refusing to surrender your desire, your faith, or your disciplined thought. Because in the end, success does not belong to the most talented, the most connected, or the most fortunate. It belongs to the most persistent, to those who continue when others give up, to those who dig when others abandon the mine, to those who believe that the invisible can become visible even when the world calls them foolish. Let me leave you with this: every failure is temporary, but quitting is permanent. And the only way failure becomes permanent is if you let it. So persist. Persist when it is hard. Persist when it is lonely. Persist when the world says no. For persistence turns possible into inevitable. Desire gives direction. Faith gives courage. Discipline gives focus. Persistence gives endurance. But all of these remain powerless until they find expression in action. Action is the great equalizer. It is the bridge between thought and reality, between intention and result. Without action, desire is a daydream, faith is an illusion, discipline is wasted energy, and persistence is only imagination. Action is the proof of belief, the measure of seriousness, the true currency of success. It is remarkable how many people stop at the level of thought. They plan endlessly, they speak passionately about their visions, they imagine vividly what they could become, but when it comes to moving the hand, taking the step, making the call, writing the page, building the foundation, they delay. They wait for the perfect moment, for certainty, for inspiration, for permission. And in that waiting, their dreams wither. The graveyard is full of unrealized possibilities. Not because the dreamers lack talent, but because they refused to act when the opportunity demanded it. You must understand the perfect moment never arrives. Life is not waiting for you to prepare yourself fully before it allows you to advance. Progress belongs to those who act while conditions are imperfect, who step forward with trembling legs and uncertain hands, and who learn as they move. Action creates clarity. Action breeds confidence. Action transforms the unknown into the known. Those who wait until they are ready are forever unready. Action, however, is not mere movement. It is not business. Many people deceive themselves into believing they are acting because they fill their days with activity. But movement without direction is wasted energy. The ant scurries endlessly, but it is not building a vision. It is following instinct. Mastery of action means deliberate, purposeful steps toward a definite aim. It is the quality of your action, not the quantity, that determines your results. This is why the disciplined mind, the persistent spirit, and the clear desire must all converge into action. When your thoughts are aligned, your desire is strong, and your faith unshakable. Then each action you take is multiplied in its effect. A man without clarity may take 1,000 steps and go nowhere. A man with clarity and faith may take 10 steps and cross a continent. Mastery of action is not about exhausting yourself. It is about directing yourself. Let us consider for a moment the psychology of action. Why do so many hesitate? Why do they delay even when the vision is clear? The answer is fear, the fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear of wasted effort. But what they fail to realize is that inaction is the greatest failure of all. If you act and fail, you learn. If you act and succeed, you progress. But if you do not act, you gain nothing but regret. Action guarantees growth, while inaction guarantees decay. There is also the fear of inadequacy, the voice that says, I am not skilled enough, I am not prepared enough, I am not worthy enough. But worthiness is not proven before action, it is created by action. The master was once a beginner, the champion was once a novice. The only difference between the one who succeeds and the one who does not is that one took action long before he felt ready, and in acting, he became ready. You do not wait for confidence to act. You act to gain confidence. Now, mastery of action also means mastery of consistency. A single burst of effort, no matter how intense, cannot replace the steady accumulation of small actions. A drop of water falling on stone does nothing, but repeated drops over time carve a groove. Greatness is not built in a day, it is built daily. A book is not written in one sitting, but in pages written each morning. A fortune is not built in a single leap, but in daily habits of earning, saving, and investing. A strong body is not created by one workout, but by repeated discipline over months and years. The individual who masters action is the one who understands that small, consistent actions compound into results that appear miraculous to the undisciplined observer. But there is something deeper still. Mastery of action requires not only consistency but courage. The courage to act when you cannot yet see the outcome. This is where faith and persistence converge into motion. You act not because success is guaranteed, but because success is impossible without acting. You act knowing that uncertainty is part of the process, and that every step, even the missteps, is progress. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward in spite of fear. I must also warn you, action without reflection can be as dangerous as reflection without action. To master action, you must combine movement with thought. You must analyze results, adjust your methods, and refine your approach. Action teaches more than theory ever could, but only if you are willing to learn from it. The persistent fool repeats the same mistake endlessly. The persistent master adapts. This is why mastery of action is not simply the will to do, but the wisdom to evaluate and improve. And remember, action multiplies when connected to service. When you act not only for yourself but for others, you find a reservoir of energy that self-interest alone cannot supply. A man may tire in pursuit of selfish gain, but he rarely tires when his actions contribute to something greater than himself. Service gives meaning to effort. It transforms work into purpose, and purpose sustains action when difficulty arises. So here is the truth: you will never think your way fully into success. You must act your way into it. Ideas, no matter how brilliant, are powerless without expression. Faith, no matter how strong, is sterile without deeds. Discipline and persistence are wasted if they are not channeled into tangible effort. The world does not reward intentions, it rewards results. And results are born only of action. Do not fall into the trap of endless preparation. Plan enough to begin, then begin. Adjust along the way. You will never eliminate uncertainty, but you can eliminate inertia. And once you start moving, momentum will carry you further than you ever imagined. Let me leave you with this: action is the heartbeat of achievement. It is the visible proof that your desire is alive, your faith is real, your discipline is strong, and your persistence unbreakable. Every moment you hesitate, the future you could build slips further away. Every moment you act, it draws closer. So take the step, however small, and then another and another. For the journey from zero to greatness is not made in thought alone, it is made in action. When you begin at zero, it is tempting to see the journey as entirely personal, as if the climb is only about your gain, your growth, your wealth, your recognition. At first glance, it appears that the goal is to lift yourself out of struggle into security, to move from scarcity to abundance, from anonymity to significance. Yet, the deeper truth reveals itself as you progress. Real and lasting success is never isolated. The richest growth, the kind that endures and expands beyond your own life, comes only when you connect your purpose to service. Service is not simply about charity. It is not about giving leftovers of your time, energy, or resources. Service is the deliberate act of contributing value to the lives of others in a way that simultaneously strengthens your own progress. It is the realization that every business thrives because it solves a problem for someone else. Every invention is born to serve human need. Every fortune, directly or indirectly, comes from creating value for society. The man who serves greatly cannot help but grow greatly, because life itself multiplies what we give. Consider this money, influence, recognition. These are byproducts of service. They are the shadows cast by the light of contribution. Too many chase the shadow and wonder why it escapes them. The wiser path is to build the light, to become so valuable in what you offer that wealth and opportunity cannot help but follow. If you wish to be indispensable, serve in a way no one else is willing or able to serve. If you wish to be remembered, give in a way that leaves a mark on the lives of others long after you are gone. You may ask, how can I serve if I have nothing? How can I give when I myself am starting from zero? The answer is that service is not always about resources. It begins with mindset. You can give your effort, your time, your skill, your encouragement, your creativity. If you possess nothing else, you can still offer sincerity and goodwill, which are often more valuable than money. The smallest act of service plants a seed that, in time, grows into opportunity. When you make yourself useful, doors open that would otherwise remain closed. This principle holds true in every sphere. The employee who goes beyond his task to help his team rise will eventually be trusted with greater responsibility. The entrepreneur who seeks not just to sell but to serve will build loyalty that no competitor can steal. The leader who puts the growth of others above his own ego builds a legacy that no obstacle can destroy. The student who helps others learn finds his own understanding deepening. The truth is, universal service multiplies both the giver and the receiver. But there is another dimension here that many overlook. Service disciplines the soul. It pulls you out of the prison of self-absorption and widens your vision. When all you think about is yourself, your fears, your failures, your desires, you shrink into a smaller and smaller circle. But when you serve others, you escape the narrowness of self and enter into a greater rhythm of life. You begin to see the interconnectedness of all progress. You recognize that your success is not separate from the success of others, but tied to it. This shift in perspective is liberating, and it creates resilience. For when your work is about something greater than yourself, setbacks lose their power to discourage you. Service also refines character. To serve sincerely, you must develop patience, humility, empathy, and discipline. These are not merely moral qualities, they are strategic strengths. A man who lacks empathy cannot build lasting influence, for he does not understand the needs of others. A man who lacks humility cannot adapt, for he resists learning. A man without patience chases quick gain and loses lasting wealth. Service demands these virtues, and in practicing them, you evolve into a person capable of holding greater success. Yet let us be clear, service is not servitude. To serve does not mean to be used, nor does it mean to sacrifice yourself without wisdom. True service is empowering, not diminishing. It does not mean lowering yourself. It means elevating others while you rise as well. There is no nobility in giving to the point of self-destruction. The highest form of service comes when you are strong, capable, and abundant, and you use that strength to create opportunity for others. Thus, in building yourself, you are preparing to serve more powerfully. Understand this principle well. Growth through service is a cycle. You grow by serving, and the more you grow, the more you are able to serve. It is a wheel of progress that turns faster the more you contribute. Every breakthrough in history followed this law. The pioneers who reshaped industries did not simply think of themselves, they saw needs others ignored. The greatest leaders of movements did not serve only their own ambitions, they lifted communities, nations, and generations. Your life may not touch the world at large, but it can and must touch the world around you. And what a fulfillment! Many chase wealth and recognition but remain hollow. They reach the summit only to discover that the view is lonely. Why? Because success without service is empty. It is self-celebration without substance. But success tied to service fills the heart because it leaves an impact that echoes beyond your years. The man who serves may die, but his influence lives on in those he touched. And what greater measure of a life well lived could there be? This is the essence of rising from zero. At first, the goal is survival, security, and self-mastery. But as you rise, the true plan reveals itself. You were not meant to climb only for yourself, but to extend a hand to others still at the bottom. In lifting them, you cement your own position. In teaching others, you master yourself. In serving, you expand. Growth that ends with you dies with you. Growth that flows into service becomes eternal. So I ask you, as you build your dreams, never lose sight of this truth. Every step you take upward increases your responsibility to give outward. If you earn knowledge, share it. If you gain strength, use it to protect. If you acquire wealth, channel it toward creation and opportunity. Do not hoard what life gives you, multiply it by service. For in the end, the only plan that works is not the one that makes you successful alone, but the one that makes you significant by serving others. Let me leave you with this final thought. Service is not the last step of success. It is the highest step. The measure of your life will not be what you have gathered, but what you have given. If you would rise from zero to greatness, anchor your growth in service, and you will build not only a life of wealth and influence, but a legacy that no time or obstacle can erase.